morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to show you a new Boltund deck. You see, Boltund is very, 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 very good. I love the new Boltund, the one that just came out in Rebel Clash. But I'm starting to worry that Quad Boltund, I did a video about that previously, I'll link that in the description, does not have the staying power amongst tag teams and VMAXs and all of that good stuff. But you see, this past weekend we had the Limitless Qualifier number 3, and would you believe it, one of the very best decks at that tournament was a Boltund list that looks a little bit different and maybe slightly less turbo, but I also consider quite a lot better. Now, it was piloted by Nick Stewart to a 17th place finish, and it really does revolve around Boltund V. Now, Boltund V has got 2 attacks. For 1 lightning energy, you search your deck for up to 2 lightning energy and attach them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. And for minimum 2 energy, you do 10 damage plus 30 more for each lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So if you can get lightning energy on the field, you're good. But this deck is not playing Zeraora, and it's not playing Rayquaza, which we've seen previously in Speed Boltund lists. It is going a little bit slower, and it is going with 2 copies of Pikachu and Zekrom. You see, this is a Boltund deck. It plays 4 Boltund and only 2 Pikarom, but it is very much a hybrid of Speed Boltund and Pikachu and Zekrom. You see, the really cool thing here is if you miss that turn 1 Thunder Mountain Tapu Koko combo to get the Pikachu and Zekrom rolling, and because this is a bit of a hybrid deck, you will miss it more often than you would in your regular deck, you can still just use Boltund, use a first attack, attach 2 energy to a Pikarom, and then your full blitz will definitely be ready turn 2, which is quite nice. Now, we do see 1 copy of Tapu Koko V here. This is your 2 prize attacker who does stated damage. So whereas Boltund, you can just keep pushing it further and further and further and further and further, when we get to Tapu Koko, it's just free energy 200. And that's really nice. It's got free retreat, which helps, and single energy 20 damage, draw 2 cards is also fine in the early game in an emergency, though most of the time you're still probably going to want Boltund early doors. And then of course you got 1 copy of Tapu Koko V. It attaches 2 energy from the discard to your bench Pokemon, 1 to each of 2. It's phenomenal, and we love it. So yeah, we're going to play that. Now, in terms of the energy, obviously we're primarily going lightning here, but we've got to go for 4 copies of speed energy. Speed energy, you attach it to a lightning Pokemon, you draw 2 cards. It is one of the best things that lightning Pokemon have nowadays to give you just an extra advantage in terms of speed and consistency. Over the course of the game, that is an extra 8 cards that you're going to be drawing. Believe me when I say, ladies and gentlemen, that really, really adds up over the course of a game. And that is essentially the basics of the deck. You're using Boltund or Pikachu and Zekrom, and you're using speed energy to give yourself the extra speed. And it is going to come down to the circumstances. One of the problems with Boltund is that it's 2-hit KOing VMAXs, while not necessarily jumping you ahead in the prize race. But Pikachu and Zekrom's GX attack can take a KO on something like a Dedenne on the bench, which will then jump you ahead in the prize race, and they are a very, very good complement together. Now, moving over into the trainers here, we do see 4 copies of Green's Exploration. This is a Green's Exploration deck. The only ability we see here is Tapu Koko Prism Star, and bearing in mind that ability works by lost zoning itself. So you don't need to worry. You're not going to have an ability out unless you start with Tapu Koko, but again, once you get it to the bench, you can lost zone it. That is a very, very nice thing. It lets you search for any 2 trainer cards. It gives you the options all the way out throughout the game, and it basically means you can grab whatever you want. But because you're not playing stuff like Energy Switch here, and you're not playing stuff like Professor's Research, this is very much a deck where you can pull off the giant turn 1, but you are, shall we say, less likely to do so than in some Pikarom builds that do go a lot more aggressive. because they're also playing stuff like DOGGO, which you cannot play in a greens build. Playing greens does mean you're going a little bit slower, but having Boltund's first attack means you can afford to do so. Now, we also see a couple copies of Volkner here. Volkner's awesome. Just gets you lightning energy and an item card. So again, just giving you that little bit of consistency, making sure that you've got the energy and the item card. But again, relying on stuff like Volkner and greens does mean you are not quite as explosive as these decks that are going nuts with Professor's Research and Dedenne. Now, we do see a couple copies of Mallow and Lana. Lets you switch to the bench while healing 120. You're playing big, multiple prize Pokemon. Being able to heal 120 is pretty gosh darn good. Plus, you want to switch between Boltund and Pikachu and Zekrom. This has got your back. And then we've got Cynthia and Caitlin. Lets you recover a supporter card and draw 3 cards. So any supporter you really need back, this will get it. And we've got Guzma and Hala. Lets you search out a Pokemon tool, a stadium, and a special energy. Bearing in mind, Thunder Mountain is ridiculous. And you've got speed energy. Yeah, this is pretty gosh darn good. And because we're playing Pikachu and Zekrom, and because we're playing so many tag team supporters, we are playing Tag Cool here, which just lets you search for any 2 tag team cards, be they Pokemon or supporters. And to finish off with the supporters, obviously we've got to play a couple copies of Boss's Orders here. That's kind of a given. It is your gusting. It just lets you drag any of your opponent's Pokemon from the bench into the active, lets you essentially take out whoever you want. This is a good thing. It can also really help set up that 4 or more prize turn with Pikachu and Zekrom, making sure you've got something in the active to be KO'd from the main damage, while taking out hopefully something like a Dedenne with the residual damage. Well, would you check that out, ladies and gentlemen? Now, speaking of supporters, we do play 4 copies of Pokegear 3.0. Lets you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, find a supporter, put it into your hand. I've already shown you we're playing a number of different supporters, and a bunch of them as one-offs, a couple of them at least. So clearly having this to grab the right one at the right time is a good thing. 4 copies of Electro Power is a given in any Lightning deck at the moment. Just lets you do an extra 30 damage this turn. And yeah, you can play more than one in a turn if you wish. Why would you not? 3 copies of Quick Ball because you are a primarily basic Pokemon deck. By which I mean an entirely basic Pokemon deck. So this is going to get your Pokemon nicely. There is an argument for a 4th, but there's also an argument that you don't have the room. 2 copies of Reset Stamp, put your opponent down to a new hand equal to their remaining prizes. Good if your opponent takes a big lead, or even just in the late game, to be honest. 2 copies of Switch, also there to make sure you've got the right Pokemon in the active at the right time. 1 copy of Wait and See Hammer, and this is honestly just a thing in a Green's Exploration deck. You can only play it on your first turn going second. It just discards an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. Generally, you can only really ever use 1, unless they attach multiple energy, which you can't rely on. And it means that it's very unlikely that it's going to work, unless you play 4, but you don't want to play 4. But in Green's Exploration decks, you play 1, and then you just search it if you go second with Green's Exploration. Kind of cool. We then see 1 copy of Great Catcher for a little bit of extra gusting. Lets you gust up any GX Pokemon, which can be very, very nice. 1 copy of Tool Scrapper to get rid of tools. That is going to be a one-of in an awful lot of decks moving forward, because it can get rid of, well, things like Spell Tag to drop extra damage, etc. So, something you're going to see more and more of, shall we say. I feel fairly confident about that. Speaking of tools, we've got 2 copies of Big Charm to give yourselves an extra 30 HP, make yourself harder to KO, and 1 copy of Air Balloon to reduce your retreat cost by 2. We've then got the aforementioned Thunder Mountain. It reduces your attack cost, it's redonkulous. And then 1 copy of Viridian Forest lets you discard a card from your hand and search for a basic energy. So it can be really nice on those turns where you really need basic energy, but it can also be good for, say, discarding an energy to accelerate with Tapu Koko. I love Boltund. It's one of my very, very, very favourite decks that came around in Rebel Clash, and I think this might be a better way to play it. I love the speed version. I played a bunch of games with that since the set dropped, but I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not it's not loving, unfortunately. I think this build has a far better chance to be good. Fun, I might take the super speed build, but if you're looking for something that can actually go and win you a tournament, I think this might be the one. But I'd like to know what you think about this lovely deck, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.